Some people say they met by accident. Others know that as just what destiny calls itself when it doesn't want to show its hand too soon. April 14th was a date Lena tried to outrun every year. She'd usually leave town, hide in trains and hotels, pretending she could escape her own memories. But that year, everything went wrong. The bus was late, her coffee spilled, and the park bench she always sat on was taken. "Sorry," he said, making a little room. "I don't bite." Not on the first date, anyway. That's how she met Mark. He was a writer who never finished his books. She was an illustrator who never showed her drawings. They were two people fluent in the language of avoidance, and they recognized each other instantly. They talked for hours about fear, about leaving before you can be left, and about dates that feel more like scars. As the sun set, Mark made a strange proposal. Let's not exchange numbers. No social media, just this place, once a year. April 14th, it was foolish, romantic, and above all, safe. Lena agreed. Safe felt so much easier than hope. The first year was gentle. They shared small victories and easy jokes. The second year, the cracks began to show. Lena noticed how Mark flinched at the sound of sirens, how he deflected questions about family, how he unconsciously hid a thin scar on his wrist. By the third year, the air between them had changed. Their silences grew longer, their knees would brush, and when it started to rain, they didn't move apart. That night, they broke their only rule. His apartment smelled of paper and dust. Their intimacy was slow, careful, as if they were both terrified that pleasure might demand a price later on. They held each other, listening to the sound of breathing, pretending they hadn't crossed a line. They never spoke of love. It made the feeling survivable. The fourth year, Mark didn't show up. Lena waited until the bench turned cold, until the park lights flickered on. Hope thinned into something sharp and humiliating. She didn't cry. She just quietly, permanently closed a door inside herself. Some people are lessons, she thought, not futures. On the fifth year, she returned to the park with another man, not for love, but for proof. Proof that she had moved on. Mark was already there. He looked older, hollowed out, and more honest than she'd ever seen him. "I didn't come last year because I was trying to disappear," he said, his voice raw. "I thought if I stayed away, I wouldn't ruin you." He told her everything then. About the fire that took his sister, about the guilt of being the one who survived, about believing love required punishment. They spent that night together again, but this time it was different, desperate, as if their bodies were trying to say a goodbye their mouths couldn't form. The closeness hurt more than the distance ever had. In the morning, Lena finally understood something he couldn't. Love wasn't healing him. It was keeping him broken. "I can't be your place to hide," she said quietly. "And you can't be my unfinished chapter." They ended it without shouting, without promises, and without another date. Years later, Lena illustrated a book about timing and loss. Mark never published another novel. They never saw each other again. But every April 14th, Lena still feels that ache, not of losing him, but of knowing that sometimes love doesn't fail. Sometimes it just leads nowhere.